She says, I object and this should be dismissed. And in her filing, she was explaining, she says, I've got judicial immunity and nothing you can do about me. She found no authority to bar this prosecution, and she rejected Judge Dugan's argument as unprecedented and unauthorized.
The sitting judge tried to get her felony case tossed by claiming that she was immune to the law that she enforces. Her defense was, I'm just doing my job. But the courts didn't buy it, not for a second. They said this wasn't a ruling, this wasn't judicial conduct, this was obstruction. And now she's heading to trial, robe or not. If you'd helped someone run from ICE, you'll be in handcuffs before the dude even hit the exit. But this judge, she said that was part of her job. Yeah, helping a defendant dodge fellow agents, this case could have disappeared quietly until the court said, nah, you're not special. Let's get into it. This isn't about politics. It may seem that way because it looks like Judge Dugan had her own views on policies and she wanted to interfere, but this ain't about politics. It's about power and how some people think they're too important to follow the rules. Judge Hannah Dugan isn't just some random name. She is not some fringe activist. She's a sitting judge in Milwaukee County with a robe, a bench, and the authority to shape people's futures. That authority came with expectations, like upholding the law. Now, in her past, she hasn't made great decisions, as we have seen before. She gave a really light sentence to someone that was later accused of shooting 2 cops, killing one. Meet Tremaine Jones. In 2021, he was hit with resisting arrest and stealing a car, making a lot of bad decisions, very violent decisions. Instead of going to jail, he gets a deferred prosecution deal. And guess who rubber stamped that deal in April 2025? Yes, Judge Dugan. Then June hits. Jones allegedly ambushes 2 officers. 1 killed, 1 is hanging on. This was an ambush. This was a calculated setup. This is a cautionary tale about soft justice gone sideways. So she don't have the best track record. But let's get back to the case that we're talking about here, the case that she's trying to dismiss. This is what she did instead. She let an undocumented defendant sneak out the back door while federal immigration agents were posted up at the front.
The feds claim the judge escorted Flores Ruiz out a private jury door to help him evade arrest. A week later, federal agents charged Judge Dugan with obstructing a federal investigation, arresting her at the courthouse.
That's not discretion, that's evasion. And her excuse, she didn't deny it. She just claimed that this shouldn't count, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because that's not how the rest of us get treated. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This was a deliberate move that went against the very system that she's supposed to uphold and protect. If you or I did the same thing, we'll be fighting felony charges before the ink dried on the report. She thought that her role made her untouchable. Turns out that might have been a bad bet. ICE doesn't play around with interference. We've seen countless videos over the last couple of weeks. It's been a very emotional, very contentious back and forth between the people who do not like ICE and ICE themselves. And people have been charged just for warning someone ahead of time. If you do anything that interferes with ICE, you're going to be in trouble. So if you actually open the door and help them escape, that's obstruction and that's a felony. Now you might be thinking, well, she's a judge, maybe it's different. It's not, because in the moment, she wasn't ruling on the case. And we'll be talking about exactly why her motion to dismiss this case failed, because in that moment, she wasn't ruling on the case. She wasn't issuing a judgment. She was basically helping someone dodge custody. And when you do that, no matter what your title is, you're acting like a civilian interfering with law enforcement, not a judge. And we all know what happens if you are a civilian trying to interfere with law enforcement. You go to jail.
Jurors are not going to like a judge sitting up there and saying, I have immunity for committing crimes, but you don't.
So we cannot pretend that the lines are blurry here. She made a call. That law says that it's a felony, and that title in front of her name doesn't change the facts. So let's break down the moment that she tried to pull this immunity card. What did she do when she got called out on this? She didn't say, I didn't do it. She didn't say it was a mistake. She said, you can't charge me. I'm a judge. That's the defense, basically. Not denial, just immunity. So let's talk about judicial immunity. It's a real thing, but it's not a force field. It's meant to protect judges from lawsuits and criminal charges for doing their job, issuing rulings, running the courtroom, deciding motions. So let's say, for instance, a judge throws out a case that is deemed frivolous, but then gets sued by the angry plaintiff. That's where immunity applies. You need that kind of protection so judges aren't paralyzed by fear every time they make a tough call. But this wasn't a ruling. There was no court order, no written motion, no docket entry, just a head nod, a hallway, and a quiet exit. That's not judging, that's sidestepping. So when a judge signs a bench order, they have immunity. When judge waves someone past ICE agents post-hearing, that's not immunity. Immunity covers judicial acts, not after hours stunts.
Dugan is wrong about the application and the scope of immunity. In the simplest of terms, to quote the judge, judges are not immune from criminal prosecution for acts wholly outside of their official roles as judges. That obviously makes sense. And even when a judge's actions are related to official duties, there's no immunity for conduct that violates criminal law.
And when she tried to claim otherwise, she just turned a concept into a joke. So obviously this is not the first time a judge tried to use the immunity defense either. A really weird case back in 2007, New York Supreme Court Justice Gerald Garson got caught taking cash and cigars in exchange for rigging divorce cases. And the gall of it all, he actually tried to argue immunity, claimed that what he did was a part of his official duty was to take cigars and cash to rig divorce cases. Well, obviously the court shut that down fast. And it's pretty clear, once you start taking bribes, you're not judging, you're just hustling, and immunity won't save you. So this is where her whole "I'm a judge, you can't touch me" defense runs right into a wall. The DOJ wasn't having it. They said that her immunity claim was so vague, it basically lets judges do anything under the label of official duty. They warned that her argument would create a system where judges could break the law and then hide behind a bench. Magistrate Judge Nancy Joseph didn't flinch. She said, yes, judges get civil immunity when they make decisions in the court, but this isn't a civil case, this is criminal. And when a judge is accused of committing a crime, immunity doesn't block prosecution. She wrote it clean. What matters here, whether the judge, even in performing her official duties, is accused of committing a crime. That's the whole game. Her team tried to spin it. They said that judicial immunity should block criminal charges too. Prosecuting her would just discourage judges from doing their jobs. And this wasn't unprecedented, but history says otherwise. Judges have faced charges before: bribery, fraud, corruption, and immunity never saved them. The hearing was over. The bench was vacant. Her authority was expired for the day. And that's where she allegedly helped someone out the back. She wasn't in her official duty as a judge. There was no ruling, no transcript, no court action. It was a hand gesture, a door, and silence. And the court saw right through that. They said that's not judicial conduct, that's just conduct. She claimed that she was just doing her job, but the job was already done. This is usually the part where the system protects its own, quiet deals, soft landings, the next judge up. But this time her motion got denied, and that really matters because it's giving every official a warning that's watching. Your title doesn't buy you a free pass. Judicial immunity was never a cheat code. It's supposed to let judges do hard jobs without fear, but not let them sidestep the law. You enforce the law, that's great, but when you break it, you face the same music as the rest of us. And that's a problem with people with tremendous power and influence, what they call the elites. They bend the rules and then act shocked when someone says, nah, not this time. You skip court, you get a warrant. You block ICE, you get arrested. And if you aid an escape, you get a felony. But because you're in that club, suddenly it's all a gray area, but it's not gray, it's just crooked. And people are tired of pretending otherwise. So what happens now? No more hiding under legal jargon, no more official duty loopholes. Judge Dugan is going to trial, like she should, and no, that doesn't guarantee a conviction, but it does mean that she has to face the process like every other citizen, because that's how it works. Not robe first, facts later, not some elite carve out, just one system, one law, and we'll see what happens in that case. But let me know what you guys think about this story. If you made it this far towards the end of the video, I appreciate you. If you like this kind of content and you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. You can check out my email newsletter and my Patreon if you want to follow the channel. If you like this kind of content, this is where it is. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.